Well, this season can't get any more interesting. In this episode, you can say on the ice, things were a little better, if you omit the first game here. However, off the ice, things happened, and nothing that you can ever think of or can make up here. Anyway, it's time for another episode of... Hi there, it's Brett Hornby here. Welcome back to another episode of my Calgary Flames in 6 here. Here we are, Season 2, episode number 6 here, and it's going to be very interesting to recap what happened in the past 6 games here. I mean, I'm going to say on the ice, things are slowly looking better here. However, off the ice, well, I'll direct you to that video when we get there. But, this has definitely been a strange season. And for 40th season here, it's definitely been memorable and weird for the, not necessarily for the best reasons here. So I'll bring up my notes here and let's recap how games 25 to 30 has gone for the Calgary Flames in the 2019-20 NHL season here. And like I say, if you admit the first game here, things actually were better compared to the last episode here. However, I am not going to be asking that question, are we Stanley Cup contenders here? Now we have to ask, are we going to make the playoffs this year? So anyway, let's get going here. And actually, as of after I uploaded the last episode, it was the next day that TJ Brodie actually rejoined the team and was back with the team, and he accompanied them on this upcoming road trip here. So things definitely were looking good for TJ Brodie after the last episode where he had that unfortunate collapse there, and all tests came back negative, and at least nothing screwed up neurologically up there, or sometimes these things just happen. But it's good to know that TJ Brodie is back and well, and he'll get mentioned in a few games here later in the segment here. So he's definitely back, and let's hope got no more other strange stuff to come other than what is to come here, and I'll point you to that video when the time comes. So going back to game 25, this happened on Thursday, November 21st. The Calgary Flames started off their 4-game road trip as they went to St. Louis at the Enterprise Center. That was a 6 p.m. puck drop here, and coming into this game, well, the Calgary Flames were on a 5-game losing streak here, and this one was definitely a very, very frustrating game to evaluate and get feelings on, as we were getting shots in and looked, alright to begin with. However, it was Zach Sanford of the St. Louis Blues that opened up the scoring past the 12-minute mark. So St. Louis had a 1-0 lead after 1 here. Zach very well, despite getting shots, the St. Louis Blues were able to add to that lead here. First, Oscar Sundqvist just past the 6.5-minute mark, and then David Perron just over 3 minutes later. So just like that, St. Louis had a 3-0 lead, and they were up 3-0 after 2 periods there. Third periods, the Calgary Flames were finished here as the Blues were able to finish off the Flames here with a couple more goals. Well, Oscar Sundqvist again scored his second of the game, 2.5 minutes into the third period. And how fitting, Vince Dunn scored just before the midway mark to give Calgary, or I wish it was Calgary, St. Louis a 5-0 lead. And ultimately, the St. Louis Blues, who did also win this game 5-0 here. So this definitely wasn't a pretty way to start off the 4-game road trip on the ice. I'll stress the on the ice part here, as the Flames now have lost 6 in a row at this point, and they've been shut out 3 of the last 4 games. That's definitely very, very disturbing here. The only thing I'm going to highlight here in the third period, other than those 2 goals, is that Rasmus Anderson and Braden Shen fought past the 13-minute mark here. So Rasmus Anderson was definitely feeling some frustration there, and hopefully he got some out of his system in that, and hopefully it's part of the team here. And like I say, St. Louis, well, they were led by Zach Sanford. Now he scored the opening goal here. He also picked up 3 assists there. As well, Oscar Sundqvist had 2 goals, and Robert Thomas, who chipped in with 3 assists of his own here. And I say Calgary's getting shots here. We actually outshot the St. Louis Blues 40-31 in this game. Dave Riddick, he made 26 saves for Calgary here, while Jordan Binnington still continuing his, great play from last season up to win the Stanley Cup, and continuing this season, he made 40 saves in the shutout there. So, definitely not a good start to the 6-game segment here. However, I did say in the opening, I hinted that if you omit the first game, things were looking better on the ice for the Calgary Flames. As game 26, this happened on Saturday, November the 23rd here, as the Calgary Flames went to the state of Pennsylvania, city of brotherly love, they say, in Philadelphia here. And this was some afternoon delight, as it was an 11 a.m. Mountain puck drop at the Wells Fargo Center. Me personally, I actually was at the Grey Cup Festival here, but first period was a little flat on both sides here, being an afternoon game. I mean, you never know what you're going to get out of these afternoon games, so there was no scoring after the first period in this game. Second period, Philadelphia came out really strong, maybe as strong as Rocky here, with all my Philadelphia references here, as they came out strong and outplayed Calgary and opened up the scoring not until the 13.5-minute mark of the second period, as Geoff Ward for Philadelphia makes it 1-0 for the Flyers, and that's how things stood after 2 there. I'm going to say we were fortunate to only be down 1-0 after the second period here, as Philadelphia outshot Calgary by a margin of 18-3 here. So, a couple touchdowns and a field goal there, and we were able to get a field goal for themselves. So, that's how things stood after 2 periods there. However, Calgary did rebound in the third period here, and after over 230 plus minutes of being shut out on the road here, it was Andrew Mangiapane who ties it up in the opening minute there, so it was a 1-1 game there. Calgary did play better in the third period. However, it's Kevin Hayes who thought maybe he scored the dagger here to give Flyers a go-ahead goal at 2-1. This happened at the 16.5-minute mark here, so it was fairly late in the third period there, as it looked like Calgary had control here. Kevin Hayes had other plans here. However, with less than a minute and a half to go in the third period here, Elias Lindholm scores his 11th goal of the season here to tie it up. And this one needs overtime here, tied at 2-2 here. Overtime, both teams had chances here. However, this one needed a shootout, as overtime did not solve anything here. In the shootout, it was Joel Farabee who was up first for Philadelphia. He was stopped, and then Sean Monahan was up first for Calgary. He was also stopped, so round 1 didn't solve anything. In the second round, it was Claude Giroux for Philadelphia who was up. He was stopped, and then Mr. Clutch, Matthew Tkachuk, on the second round, the shootout, actually scored here. So the game all came down to Sean Couturier, but he was stopped, and Calgary was able to pull out a 3-2 shootout win in this one, and able to finally end not only their lengthy goalless streak on the road, but they also finally won a game here. Not necessarily in ideal circumstances, but at this stage, we'll take wins. Philadelphia also outshot Calgary 38-27 here, including that 18-3 second period there, and both teams took 3 shots each in overtime there. Dave Riddick, once again, well, he was definitely very, very strong, and the reason why we were able to pull this one out, he made 36 saves for Calgary, while it was Carter Hart for Philadelphia who made 25 saves here. So, at least we salvaged something on the week, this road trip here. So the next game, this happened on Monday, November 25th here. Calgary was finishing their tour of Pennsylvania as they were taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins at the PPG Paints Arena at 5 p.m. puck drop here. And you could say maybe Calgary had a little bit of a break here as Sidney Crosby was not available for the Pittsburgh Penguins here. However, Philadelphia still has a lot of depth players that scored, as you'll find out here. And TJ Brody, he drew back into the lineup here, so definitely a boost there. So Calgary looked good and early and out of the gate here, and recently called up Dylan Dubé. Actually scored his first goal of the season here, past the 7-minute mark, and it was 1-0 Calgary there. However, Pittsburgh was able to tie it up late, like 4 minutes later, past the movement mark of the first period as Alex Galchenyuk scores to make it 1-1. So it was a 1-1 game after the first period there, and I'm going to say all things considered, we looked a lot better against the Pittsburgh Penguins considering how we looked lately here. Second period, Pittsburgh came out stronger and was able to get a go-ahead goal from Jared McCann past the 7-minute mark. However, Sean Monahan actually was able to score on the power play to tie it at 2-2 at the 15-minute mark of the second period here. And that's how things stood after two. It was a 2-2 game here, so we were hanging around with the Penguins here. Third period showed to be a better period. Pittsburgh showed to be a better team, but David Riddick was able to keep them off the scoreboard, but Calgary did not score either. So just like the other game in Pennsylvania, this one needs overtime. However, in overtime, both teams had chances here, but it was Jake Gensel for the Pittsburgh Penguins at the 4:04 mark in the final minute in 3-3 overtime. Pittsburgh scored, so they won this one 3-2 here. However, we did salvage a point in Pittsburgh here. I felt Calgary had a better effort overall in Pittsburgh than he did in Philadelphia here, but we still collected three out of possible 4 points in Pennsylvania there, and both Pennsylvania teams are looking strong this season here. So Pittsburgh was led the way with Alex Galchenyuk and Jared McCann. Each had a goal and assist here. And it was Dominic Kuhn who chipped in with 2 assists here. So I said there was no Crosby. You didn't hear Chris Letang or Genny Malkin or none of those guys. But Jake Gensel, he's definitely, where did they find this guy? He's definitely been a great find for the Penguins here. Pittsburgh also outshot the Calgary Flames 38-34 in this game. It was Dave Riddick who made 35 saves for Calgary, while it was Tristan Jarry who was in net for the Penguins. He made 32 saves for Pittsburgh. Now, let's just say, go to this video here. I'll cover what I'm about to encounter here. However, it was during this game that tweets about Bill Peters came to surface and the off-the-ice story developed here. So, started to take shape here this week. So this is where I'm saying on the ice things were looking better, but off the ice things were looking a little uglier there, and I'm going to say go to that video. I talked about that, and most of that video was talking about what happened and a lot of go in the description and read on about it. I just didn't want to say anything that triggered it, but you know, there was definitely some past allegations about head coach Bill Peters at that time. It, I mean, definitely was shocking and unexpected, but it is what it is, and that's what happened during that game here. So game 28 here, this happened on Wednesday, November 27th here, as the Calgary was going to Buffalo here to take on the Buffalo Sabres at the KeyBank Center to wrap up their 4-game road trip. And I'm also going to say the Geoff Ward era begins for the Calgary Flames, as Bill Peters was still technically the head coach of the Calgary Flames, but he was held away from the team and sent home separately because they were under investigation from those past allegations. And I say you can go see that video about why he was held under investigation here. Despite all that, there was still a game to be played here, and the Calgary Flames still looked alright considering what they have dealt with the past few days here. And it wasn't until the 17-minute mark of the first period here that TJ Brody, who scored his first of the season there, opened up the scoring. So Calgary led 1-0 there after one here. So it's good to know that TJ Brody is not doing well, but he's contributing here. Second period, Buffalo came back stronger and was able to tie the game as Jimmy Vesey scored past the 6.5-minute mark So we had a 1-1 game after the second period there. However, early in the third period here, Buffalo was able to take the lead here as Victor Olofsson scores just before the 2-minute mark. So we had a 2-1 game, Buffalo, early in the third period here. However, Calgary was able to tie it up a couple minutes later. Might not call him Mr. Clutch as much in this case, but it was Matthew Tkachuk who scored his 11th goal of the season. It was only at the 4-minute mark to tie it up at 2, and that's how this one stayed. And I'll say it again, this one needs overtime here. And in overtime, it was Elias Lindholm actually scored his 12th of the season at the 1:17-minute mark of overtime to give Calgary a 3-2 win here and finish off this road trip with a high. And to give Geoff Ward his first win as NHL head coach. This game he was behind the bench, but he wasn't quite officially head coach yet, as I'll get to shortly when he becomes a head coach. Buffalo did outshoot the Calgary Flames 36-29 here, so despite getting the win here, Buffalo looked like the better team here, including each team getting a shot in overtime, but we just needed that one shot in overtime here, and it counted. Calgary was led away while TJ Brodie and Matthew Tkachuk each had a goal and assist here. Dave Riddick, he made 34 saves for Calgary in this one, while Linus Ullmark for Buffalo made 26 saves for Buffalo here. So I'm going to say, despite that first game not being pretty, Calgary picked up 5 out of possible 8 points on this road trip here. So and we scored some goals after that game against St. Louis. So things are slowly looking up for Calgary. And now it's time to go back home. Definitely, will say it was definitely nice to be home here. As the game 29, this happened on Saturday, November the 30th. We were taking on the Ottawa Senators at home at the Scotiabank Saddledome here, and it was the day before that Bill Peters officially resigned his position as head coach. And you know, that video and that descriptions will tell you why he ultimately decided to resign. I didn't think, given the situation, I didn't think there was any situation that he was going to come back and be behind the bench here. So Geoff Ward officially got named the interim head coach here, and like I said, the Geoff Ward era has continued here. So, as I said, Calgary back home from the road trip, and it was definitely nice to be back home, but we were taking on the Ottawa Senators, Hockey Night Canada here, and I'm going to say this definitely was a very dull game, as Calgary, sometimes they have the tendency to play down to their opponent here, and while Ottawa is unlikely to make the playoffs this year, they're still playing a lot better than expectations are. They had no expectations this season, but you know, it just felt like a dull game. We just didn't, you know, have the extra drive here. I mean, I guess you could say, you know, back from a road trip and back with what they had to deal with on the said road trip, where they picked up some extra emotional baggage not anticipated here, so sometimes teams look flat here. So there was no scoring and no one stood out after the first period here. But actually, never mind. It was actually just before the final minute of the first period here. Take that back here, is that it was Dylan Dubé who actually scored his second goal of the season in the final minute of the first period here. But it was a very dull period that almost felt like, you know, at the end of the first period. So Calgary actually led 1-0 after the first period there on Dylan Dubé's second goal in the final minute there. Second period was another flat period, and now, yeah, this is where I looked at in my notes here that there was no scoring in the second period here. So after Calgary getting their goal late in the first period there, no score in the second, it was still 1-0 Calgary after 2 periods here. However, you could say Ottawa had the slight edge in play there. Because Ottawa, despite having no expectations here, they come to play and not make it easy to get points from them. Third period, game continued to look so-so here, and it was Ottawa that was able to get one by Jean-Gabriel Pageau. One of the bright spots for the Ottawa Senators here, just before the 50-minute mark. But a minute later, it was Elias Lindholm who scored to put Calgary up back by 1. So it was 2-1 for Calgary late in the third period there, with just over 4 minutes left here. And it was Elias Lindholm again who scored his 14th second of this game here in the empty netter to put it away, and with a minute to have to go. So Calgary took this game 3-1 here, and Calgary was obviously led by Elias Lindholm with 2 goals here. Shots in this one were even at 27 apiece here. Dave Riddick, once again, he was in net for Calgary. He made 26 saves here, while it's Marcus Hogberg, recent call-up and their 3rd stringer for Ottawa, and he made his first start of the season. He made 24 saves for Ottawa in this game. So I'm going to say Calgary's won a couple games in a row here, and they're 2-0 under Geoff Ward here. So after that game, Game 30 wasn't until Thursday, December 5th here, and given how things have developed here with the Flames here, it was a perfect time to have a couple days to take a break here, have some other teams actually catch up in their games in hand here, and now that Geoff Ward is technically the interim head coach, but I think the way things are going, and not to shake things up too much here, I think he's going to be the head coach for the rest of the season, in my opinion, unless we go on and lose 10 in a row here. But he actually used that opportunity to shake up the lines here a little bit and trying to spread out the offense. And also Travis Hamonic, who was hurt there for a while, actually returned in the lineup here. So Travis Hamonic is back here. And I should also mention that during that time off, Austin Czarnik, who actually got sent down to Stockton for conditioning here. So Austin Czarnik might be coming back in the lineup here. And it was expected he was going to, at the time of his injury here, that he might be back before Christmas here. And here we are at the start of December here, exactly on schedule here for Travis Hamonic or Austin Czarnik here. There's still no word on any developments on Yusuf Elmaki, if you're curious, and haven't heard anything new on Sam Bennett, and both of those guys are on long-term injury reserve. So back to this game in hand here. We're also seeing Buffalo for the 2nd time in 8 days. That's just weird. So despite Calgary playing better for most of the game, it was the other Sam that was drafted in the 2014 draft, Sam Reinhart, happened to be in the right spot, opens up the scoring at the 3.5-minute mark to make it 1-0 Buffalo earlier. However, past the 16.5-minute mark, one of the shakeups that was made here is that Johnny Gaudreau was moved down to the 3rd line, where he played with Milan Lucic and Derek Ryan here. He actually finally got a goal and tied the game up at 1-1, so it was 1-1 after the first period. Second period, the Calgary Flames were pressing and were able to get a couple more goals. First, Tobias Reeder on the 4th line. He actually gets his 2nd of the game shorthanded here, and then past the 11-minute mark. And Sean Monahan, who was on the 2nd line this game, actually scored past the 15-minute mark. So the Flames led 3-1 after the 2nd period there. 3rd period, you can see the relief in this guy's face. Milan Lucic, the guy that we dumped James Neal for, and now James Neal, up to this point, has 14 goals with the Edmonton Oilers. Milan Lucic, it only took him 28 games to finally get his first one with the Flames here. I mean, he's played well, had that physical presence, and had much putt luck, but he finally was in the right place at the right time, set up by Dylan Dubé. So at the 4-minute mark, it was Milan Lucic that scored to make it 4-1 for Calgary, and you can definitely see the relief on his face in the video there. However, you can say Calgary did ease up just a little here late here, as Buffalo was able to make things interesting late here, as the score would skew a little that we were the better team all game here. But Buffalo got their 2nd goal of the game past the 17-minute mark as Jake McCabe scored, and then Jack Eichel, who scored the final minute of the 3rd period here to close the gap to make it 4-3. But Calgary was able to hang on and take this one 4-3 here. They won their 3rd straight game, and they're 3-0 under Geoff Ward here. So things are looking up here after a tumultuous, unprecedented week there, where we're calling that maybe the Flames should make a coaching change here to shake things up. While the way things played out, we almost had to make a coaching change here, but Bill Peters resigned. That's the official why he left. But I think, given what has happened, and you can see that video, why I think he would have ultimately not come back, given the circumstances. So Calgary was led by Sean Monahan with a goal and assist, and Derek Ryan, who was the new center on the third line, chipped in with 2 assists there. Helped the Lucic and Goudreau there. Buffalo had 2 assists from Victor Olofsson, so he had another big game with the Flames, against the Flames here. Shots were even at 29 apiece here. Dave Riddick, once again, was in net. He made 26 saves for Calgary, while Lions Olmark for Buffalo made 25 saves here. So where do we stand after 30 games here? Well, last year at this time we were first in the Western Conference, but we're far from that right now here. But things are starting to bunch up here because while the position itself does not look pretty here, we're also, in that pack here right now as things are still tightening up here. As Calgary right now, they're 14, 12, and 4, including 3-0 against Geoff Ward since the change here with 32 points here. I mean, we are 6th in the Pacific Division, and we are 5th in the wild card, as in 3 spots away. However, we're tied with 4 other teams for the final wild card spot. And we're only 6 points behind first, who actually is Arizona. Arizona is actually first in the Pacific right now, and Edmonton's not too far behind. Who had Arizona and Edmonton in the top 3 in the Pacific Division? Anyone? That's what I thought. But that's where we stand right now as a recording here. And with all the changes here, we should also highlight here that as of this recording, actually as of today, Ray Edwards is joining the Calgary Flames coaching staff here. He was already with the organization with the Calgary Flames as Director of Player Development here, so that's definitely one of the shuffles here, because I know that the first game that we played in Buffalo, when Bill Peters was held back while he was under investigation, he had Geoff Ward running things because he was the associate coach, now the interim head coach. Now the other question is since when did we start spelling interim with an I and R-I-M? That seems to be a new thing too recently. But he also had Ryan Huska, and then Martin Jelnas moved down to the bench there because he was, when Bill Peters was here, Geoff Ward was the associate, and Ryan Huska was on the bench while Martin Jelnas overseed overhead here, and then we still got Jordan Siglet as the goaltending coach and Jamie Bringle the video coach here. So I wonder if I think Ray Edwards is probably going to be the guy with pie in the sky there, coaching from the head there. That's what I think here. It didn't say anything about if he was going to be on the bench or in the press box coaching from there. But that's some other news here. And I guess the other news here is that it's official now. The City, the Stampede, and the Calgary Flames have officially put it in stone that the new arena deal is going to happen. I mean, we as taxpayers are going to pay $290 million of it as per that agreement. This made it official here, so the construction is going to start late in 2021, in a couple of years here, and sounds like by the 2024-25 season, the Flames, Roughnecks, and Hitmen will be in the new event center, which it's called the event center right now. So those are my other news items here. So we are going to get that new building here. Now there's also talk about the field house near McMahon Stadium there. And speaking of McMahon Stadium, and after the 107th Grey Cup, we should also look at getting a new building for that too. But I guess one thing at a time here. So that's all my other news here. So now let's take a look ahead to the next 6 games here as we start rolling into December here, and what will be on episode number 7 here. So game 31, the Calgary Flames will be playing on Saturday, December the 7th. They'll be taking on the Los Angeles Kings right here in Calgary at the Scotiabank Stadium. 8 p.m. puck drop on Hockey Night Canada here. Drew Doughty, Matthew Tkachuk, they're probably going to be looking forward to meeting each other again in this game after what happened last game here. So that will start off the next episode here. Game 32, this will be on Monday, December the 9th here, as the Calgary Flames make a quick road trip here. And you got to wonder, Cam Talbot's going to have to play one of these games here, because David Riddick is actually the most played goalie in the league right now and faced the most shots here. But on Monday, December the 9th here, the Calgary Flames go on to Denver to take on the dreaded Colorado Avalanche at the Pepsi Center, 7 p.m. puck drop here. Hopefully we can maybe make some amends and beat the Colorado Avalanche for a change. And then the next night, Game 33, this happens on Tuesday, December 10th here. The Calgary Flames go to Arizona to take on the Arizona Coyotes at the Gala Arena. 7 p.m. puck drop here. I wonder if anything interesting is going to happen in that game compared to last time we played Arizona. But, that's one of the teams that we're chasing right now. And that's also going to be a big game there, as Arizona has been playing much better here. And they're in the top 3 in the Pacific. And we want to be there too. So that's Game 33. So the Flames quickly are going to be on the road here. And then on Game 34, this happens on Thursday, December the 12th here. The Calgary Flames come back home to take on the Toronto Maple Leafs here, another team that recently had a coaching change. Sheldon Keefe is now the head coach for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He was the coach of the Toronto Marlies here, and I think the Mike Babcock firing probably led to ultimately the situation that happened with the Flames and Bill Peters. But that's off to the side here. That'll be a storyline here. You got 2 fairly new coaches facing off against each other. This is at a 7 p.m. puck drop at the Scotiabank Saddledome. And then on Saturday, December 14th here, the Calgary Flames have an afternoon delight game at home, as we are hosting the Carolina Hurricanes here. So we get to welcome Dougie Hamilton back to town for again. This will be a 2 p.m. puck drop here. And then Game 36, this will be on Thursday, December 17th here. We'll be hosting the Pittsburgh Penguins here. That's a 7 p.m. puck drop at the Scotiabank Saddledome here. So, starting with that Ottawa game, Calgary has 7 of the next 9 games at home here. So, that's why I feel like things are slowly looking up here for the Calgary Flames is, we're getting a few bodies back. We're at home. We've been playing better at home. And then I guess we did have that coaching change, as some are calling for, but not necessarily for the reasons that you would think we would make a coaching change. Our hand was pretty much forced either way here. So before I really close things out here, let's just take a look at some quick stats here, shall we? So the Flames' leading goal scorer is Elias Lindholm, who has 14 goals, and then Matthew Tkachuk is second with 11 here. And then you got Sean Monahan is third with 7, and then you got Johnny Gaudreau with 6, and Andrew Mangiapane rounds out the top 5 with 5 there. And then when it comes to assists here, well, Sean Monahan and Johnny Gaudreau are both tied with 16 assists each. Matthew Tkachuk is third with 14. Mark Giordano has 10, and the round out the top 5 is Derek Ryan with 9 here. Points overall here, well, Matthew Tkachuk is the leading goal scorer with 25, or point scorer with 25 points, followed by Sean Monahan second with 23. Johnny Gaudreau has 22. Elias Lindholm has 21, and Mark Giordano has 14. So then when it comes to goalies here, well, David Riddick, he's like I said, he's played the most games there. This regular season, in 24 games played, he's 13-7-4 with a .270 goals against average and a .914 save percentage, and he has 2 shutouts there. Wow, Cam Talbot, he seems like when he does play, he's either hung to dry or gets in a bad stretch here. He's played in 7 games for Calgary this year. He's only 1 in 5. With a .323 goals against average and an .893 save percentage here. So hopefully, we'll get to see a few more starts for Cam Talbot here so that David Riddick can not play 70 games here and start this debate again with Kipper and needing the rest if we're going to make the playoffs here. But hopefully, Cam Talbot will get better support when he does play or has a better game here. So yeah. This was a very interesting my Calgary Flames in 6 here. I think I'm anticipating that after the Brody collapse in the last episode I talked about and what happened with Bill Peters, I think hopefully we'll just be talking about on the ice stuff here in the next episode here. This has definitely been a strange season for the Calgary Flames. Definitely still a long ways off where we were last year, as they definitely do not look like Stanley Cup contenders right now, and we're looking like a team that's is going to struggle to get into the playoffs here. And I say we have this in-out pattern that we need to get out of. And if we're back at Sesame Street and said the Flames did in, out, in, out, in, all the kids are going to say out for this year. But we need to break that pattern. But yeah, if you enjoy everything I do on my YouTube channel, just make sure you hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to follow along here. I mean, I recap Calgary sports, Flames, Hitman. Now it's lacrosse season. It's going to be do some Roughnecks as I do that monthly here. And, the CFL season's all done, so I don't think there'll be much more CFL content with the Calgary Stampeders until I might do a video when I talk about free agency after free agency and any other changes that have happened. But I also do personal vlogs and throw in the odd attempt at comedy here. And I mean, I definitely had a bunch of moment videos that I posted when I took in the 107th Grey Cup Festival in the game here. So if that sounds like everything you enjoy, so make sure you hit like, subscribe, and sometimes I throw an odd video in there to keep things interesting and add a little variety of content here. But I'm primarily the Calgary sports fan here, and I'm going to say it's definitely been a very interesting season to be a Flames fan here. Not necessarily in a good way here, but, I'm saying if we turn things around, it might be awkward to look back on that final week in November after the Grey Cup on was what happened that week, what turned the season around. Especially, let's say, if we get into the playoffs, and I think this team would be better served if we don't have that top seed. I think this group would be better served being a little underdogs. And let's say if we get to the conference championship. And so it would just be awkward to look back on that week. That's my opinion on that. And yeah, go see that video on why Bill Peters is no longer the head coach of the Calgary Flames. He resigned technically, and there was no scenario that he was going to come back given what happened. But, like I say, maybe this coaching change might help the team's fortunes. Some were calling for it, but not under those circumstances. So that's what I say. I'll close out here. Go Flames go, and I'll see you in the next video here.